I'm Richard Lloyd Jones, and this is Thinking with Somebody Else's Head. I've been catching up on some reading lately. That's one of the things that seems to slip through the cracks if I don't take care. All this focus on tweets and Facebook updates seems to have shortened my attention span, so getting into a good book gets harder and harder. The book I've been biting into is Norberto Keppe's landmark book, The Decay of the American People and the U.S., the one that started troubles for Keppe in America because the powers that be didn't get it. They thought Keppe was attacking, but on closer reading, you'll see he was keen to help. We're not simply writing a book, he says in his prologue. We're launching the beginning of a campaign of awareness to save the U.S. from total decay. It had been noteworthy from his first landing in New York in the early 80s that trouble was brewing, and his book laid out the areas that were in decadence, from economics to industry to agriculture to psychology and aesthetics and religion. It's strong stuff, and points a strong finger at the extremely megalomaniac people in power who've lost their sense of reality and are leading the decay. Paranoia and societal control, today on Thinking with Somebody Else's Head. Our program is streaming on our Stop Radio network and available as individual downloads, too, through iTunes. I'm glad you're tuned in, however you do that. Although you may not recognize it as such, we are in the fight of our lives. It's not so clear because it's not announced on billboards and posters, and everything in modern life seems to be designed to help us, to keep us from noticing. Materialism, consumerism, WhatsApp and Tumblr, there's more and more to take our attention away these days. But we are in a battle for our lives. And I mean this in this way. The situation is dire and has been for some years, and we don't seem to be able to turn the tide. And it got me thinking about how we at the Stop Radio Network can't stop our drive to bring more consciousness of what's going on. So I've been thinking to go back through our many Thinking with Somebody Else's Head and Healing Through Consciousness programs to separate out the finest moments from those programs, those few minutes that highlight a specific theme or issue and shed a new light on it through Norberto Keppe's Science of Analytical Trilogy. So that's what I'm going to do over the next weeks. Try to focus our program more on specific bite-sized chunks of thought that clarify or discuss what's going on in a new way. So with that in mind, here's a short excerpt from a program where Claudia Pacheco and I took the reported bin Laden execution and used that to launch into a critique of one of our most serious problems in the world today, the pathology of power. Hope you enjoy our new approach. I've been following a lot the dialogue that's going on in the media, especially the American media, around the Osama bin Laden. Some would say debacle, others would say the fact, whatever that is. There's lots of information you can get about those kinds of things, but I thought we might try and do something therapeutic today. Because I feel inside the discourse about this a real anguish. And we had an email from our one of our good friends in the United States, I think on the Monday after the event. A good friend of ours, Bob Butler, wrote saying that he had been watching the celebration outside the White House and feeling, he didn't say vaguely uncomfortable, quite uncomfortable, but I had the feeling that he didn't understand why he felt uncomfortable. And as I've been looking through various journalists writing about this, I've come across a sort of a common theme, which is that it's really good to kill the bad guy. That Geraldo Rivera on the Fox network said it was a major victory by the good guys over the bad guys. This past weekend of the New York Times, Maureen Dowd in an op-ed piece, the title of her op-ed piece was "Killing Evil is Not Evil." She talked about the need for revenge, the therapeutic value of celebrating the death of an evil man. And I thought maybe we could just talk a little bit about that. For sure, Osama bin Laden was no saint. But let's try and analyze this deeper, because I think there's something in the psychoanalysis of society that could be useful for people.
What I see right away reading these comments you selected, Richard, is that the common denominator of paranoia. So what is the technique of United States government and many other governments and dictatorships. And what we see in society, in this earth, in this planet, leaders of society, they have the tendency to bring together their people using paranoid feelings. And this is very sad and very negative, because feeding paranoia is, in one side, an easy instrument to manipulate the masses, but this is just for a short time. So when people get afraid or when people get paranoid, they are under a threat, or they are instigated in their hatred, in their projections, in their ideas, as they say here. The evil is there outside. This is a danger. Yeah. So all these paranoid feelings, they bring people together, even people that were enemies for years or lifelong, like inimizades.
Animosity between them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when people get paranoid, they can even do alliances out of paranoia. You have seen this in countries, in the wars, during the wars, First World War, Second World War, and then you can see this very often also in smaller wars. But paranoia is the basis of all conflicts. But it's also the basis of these alliances that can bring, as Obama said, since September 11th, there was not this sense of unity in the United States.
Yeah, but this event with Osama brought back this sense of unity that they hadn't had.
And this is the sad part of the story.
Yeah,
because Americans got together, Democrats, Republicans, third-party people, because of one common denominator, which is paranoia. So doing this, there is this false sense of friendliness or unity. But behind this, there are severe fractions. They are just temporarily hidden, covered up. And as soon as this paranoid feeling fades away, the differences come back as they were coming. And not only the differences, but also the true problems of American society, American economy, American differences, American sicknesses,
violence inside
violence, needs,
poverty,
the difference between poor and very rich people. So there are so many unresolved problems inside the United States. There's a staggering national debt that cannot be resolved. So all these huge true enemies of American people are hidden for a time, for a period.
Because of this focus, the paranoia.
So they fabricate. They fabricate an enemy, a national enemy of the United States, just to deviate the idea of American people of treating and seeing and dealing with their own true problems.
Yes, our institutions have lied to us and continue lying, and this we need to see. And what can we do when people don't want to see? I feel kind of like the guy from the They Live movie, fighting with his friend to get him to put on the special glasses that will allow his friend to see the mind control reality that surrounds him. So I hope in our programs that some of this comes through and that you're listening and passing it on to your friends. Feel free to stay in touch with me, too. Love to hear what you think about the shows, any ideas and thoughts. jones@stop.org.br. Talk to you next time on Thinking with Somebody Else's Head.
From the International Society of Analytical Trilogy in São Paulo, Brazil, this is the Stop Radio Network.
In the United States, There is a hidden government.
In 1985, Norberto Keppe published an explosive analysis of the pathology of power.
The new world order that they are trying to implant goes totally against ethical principles.
28 years later, Liberation of the People is still the most relevant book available that exposes our inverted socioeconomic structure and who's responsible for it.
They are like sharks and you are like fishes in an ocean.
The people's reaction to Keppe's book was enthusiastic. The powerful hated it.
They were able to do a master cover-up.
Norberto Keppe's book was buried, and the warning went out to the media.
You are never ever to mention the work of Norberto Keppe.
Now, Norberto Keppe's timely book is available again for your